Hi, my name is Xavier. I run business development at Broadpeak, and it's my pleasure today to be in Mumbai in JioStar HQ with Akash Saxena, who's the CTO. Akash, to kick us off, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do here?
Thanks for having me on. My name is Akash Saxena. I'm the CTO at JioStar. Been in the media space now for coming on almost 10 years. So it's been a very interesting ride, but that's quickly about me.
Very good, very good. So you are known for building at scale for India, large streaming events. Maybe for our international audience, do you want maybe tell us a little bit about what it means to be streaming cricket here in India? I live in the UK, so I understand cricket a little bit, but for the broader spectrum maybe.
Yeah. Sports is such a great unifier. And in India, cricket has always been that one glue. It's easy to pick up cricket, right? You need a piece of stick and any kind of ball really and go, right?
You see kids in the street, right? Almost, yeah.
Absolutely, right? It's kind of like soccer. So because it is so accessible, children play it and it just captures the national imagination. So you can imagine in a country of 1 billion plus people, streaming content like that requires streaming capabilities that can get there. And it's been such a journey, honestly. Starting out, we are on this journey from 2016, 2017, which is when India's always seen these technological jumps. It used to be, I remember growing up, I'm going to date myself. It's really hard in the 90s to get, let's say, a telephone in your home, and we went from it being hard to get telephones to everybody having cell phones.
Yeah.
So there was this big jump, and Jio was very instrumental in all of that. I remember early on in the 2000s, you could buy you get a phone for 500 rupees, which was insane, right? I cannot, I don't know how to quantify it, because prior to that, you would have to spend thousands of rupees, Indian rupees, and for it to be available only for 500 rupees, that just unleashed consumption and unleashed connectivity. And that was the journey we saw. In fact, I've been privileged to sort of be on the sidelines of that, to really see how India has turned digital 2016 onwards, where the Hotstar journey, back then it was Hotstar. It started off by saying this thing called the internet. A lot of people have it, so it started out of a curiosity to see if things would work, right? It started in a failure, curiously. Like, we back then there was a India cricket game that they were trying to stream, and they didn't think too much about it, but the website crashed.
Right.
And interestingly, and that's kind of the foundation of this building, I think, is that in that failure we saw potential to say the website crashed. There were a lot more people wanting to watch it than we thought was possible, and kind of building on that, and very early on, our leadership, and I have to give them credit, doubling down and saying we are a tech company that's going to build streaming, and that's enabled us to start from a position where nobody really gave us a shot, right? I remember one of our leaders saying that no one expected to have an Indian company taken in the names when they talk about the largest streamers in the world, and we are the largest live streamer in the world, hands down.
You guys were breaking the records very early on, right? I remember for a long time the highest audience of a streaming event was on Akamai, and it was here in India. That was one of your events, I think, for 5-10 years, right?
Yeah.
So very early on, you were already scaling for huge demand. That's something maybe we see now more and more with the US and a number of the football in the US, for example. But you guys were already doing it a long time ago.
We were, and I wish I could say that we expected it all along. I think we were optimistic, but even we were very blown away by the volumes we could unlock. And really, I think that became the story that you now see unfolding. It's amazing, because proving to consumers, proving to the market, advertisers and investors that more and more customers could actually come online with this technology.
Yep.
That has just fueled more investment and actually sped the adoption of how well connected we are in India. Upwards of what 900 million connected devices. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep penetration. Very good. So cricket is the stress test, right, when it comes
Yes.
to it. So what's harder when it comes to cricket? Is it the spikes around the key moments where your favorite batter comes on and it's everybody Jones wants to see the action, or is it the length, or maybe the mix of devices? Because you also have a very broad mix of devices. We see people
Yes.
watching cricket on phones, not just TV. So what's difficult in cricket for you today?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, yeah.
But notably, the spread of devices is one complexity. Being able to stream video at multiple layers, and you can say, well, we'll ABR. I remember speaking to this leader in North America saying, hey, we pushed 4K and so many petabytes out to sub 1 million people, and me thinking I can't afford to do that. A, B, my goal is inclusivity and streaming to as many of my country people as I can.
Right.
So and that was a key one. You made you were alluding to spikes. My favorite spike example. There's a very famous Indian cricketer called MS Dhoni. Right? If you follow any cricket, you've heard of MS Dhoni, and this is a true fact. When MS Dhoni walked out to bat, we used to see a spike of 4 to 5 million immediately within milliseconds.
Immediately, yeah.
Right. So it was metronomic, and we could set your watch to it. So it's the spikes. It's not the length of the game. We've had some interesting streaming challenges with the length of ODIs and things. So in our very early days, especially with DVR, but it's really the ebb and flow of the game.
Right.
Right. India, our highest peaks have come when India is winning, about to win. It's a close match, last 5 overs.
Getting to the last.
Last bit.
Yeah.
And those are always the nerve-wracking moments for everybody from a technology perspective. You're talking about the first time this is the back in 2018 when we first started doing IPL. That finale was a 10 million. It was a 10.2 or 10.1 million. I forget the exact number, but it was pretty much for me it was very special along with the team because we never expected that.
Breaking the 10 million
Breaking
bar.
the 10 million bar, right? Now, as in the subsequent years when we've reset these records, there is a bit of a familiarity to it. Back then, it was, we're running out of internet, we're running out of cloud capacity.
Yeah, what is going to break first? Right?
And you didn't have a choice. It's pretty much, think of it as an open party. People are coming in. There's no way to stop them. Everybody wanted to participate in that moment where the finale was being won, last over, and we could just see the concurrency going up. Of course, all our resources completing, finishing. The platform itself at that point, there were no tools available to even simulate this kind of a concurrency. So it's been a journey, honestly.
Nice. Let's talk about the numbers a little bit. You talked about the 10 million bar. Can you share maybe the last IPL, the sort of scale you got into, the spikes, the number of streams?
The highest so far we've seen was the Champions Trophy in 2025. And that was, it peaked at about 61.5 mil, 61.2 million concurrent streams. So that's been the peak so far.
That's huge.
That's huge.
When we look in North America, we look at what, 23 million?
Across
That's a lot more streams.
And I don't know, is that a single broadcaster or is it across?
That's across, that's
streamers?
per event, yeah.
So
that's because people will consume on more devices, maybe in smaller screens as well.
Yes.
Very broad. And you see it growing? You see it growing year on year, I guess?
It is growing year on year. We've been, so again, interesting story, we were prepared to stream 50 million about 4 years back, right? But we only saw it being crossed now. So, the prep for the team and the milestones that we achieve, we've always had to stay ahead. We are just about to enter our, World Cup season. Sports, it's starting in a few days.
Yeah.
And, we are expecting, or we are preparing for 100 million concurrent.
Wow.
So,
wow, that's huge. Yeah.
That's
and if you translate this to capacity, we're looking at what, 120 terabits capacity, more?
Depends. Yes, yes, that's good arithmetic. It's what you want versus what you get. It's challenging, right? If you think if I wear my CDN capex hat on, it's never-ending investment.
Yep.
And what's been interesting for us to see is just the growth in connected TVs. Right? We stream in 4K. So even a moderate jump in CTVs takes a huge chunk
big impact, right?
Yeah, it has a big impact on CDN capacity. So that's been changing in a very big way. Traditionally, India has always been seen as a mobile-first market, which is still true. India remains one of our biggest cohort. Targetable cohorts are all, have always been in mobile. But over the last 4 years or so, we are seeing our CTV connected targeted base grow massively, right? And someone was telling, we were looking at these statistics the other day, and all TVs being sold now are 4K TVs and they're connected TVs. Right? I think the
so
cheapest.
They're going to be driving up,
yeah. The cheapest 4K TV is 4,000 Indian rupees. So now this is the 500 rupee phone moment.
That's what it is. You're unlocking
yes.
The access to CTV now.
Yeah. And customers want, it is such a social unifying event. So, and you do want to watch on large screens. So we can see that bear out.
It's the first thing you're going to watch with that new TV is the cricket, right? Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Very good. Let's talk a little bit about the delivery. So you mentioned the scale, you mentioned high volumes being required. One approach that you've taken is hybrid delivery, mixing cloud CDN with a CDN built inside the telco networks, with Jio and Broadpeak, for example, as a partner. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the problems you were trying to solve taking this hybrid approach?
We need all the CDN we can get. So, one CDN provider doesn't cut it. Broadpeak is certainly one of our, partners, and, thank you for the collaboration. It's been good. And it's again, anyone who builds streaming services and architects CDNs will tell you that being as close to your customer is great for QoS. Right? So we constantly work with telcos to get in deeper with them. And of course, it's public CDNs have their place, and it's important, and they form a key backbone for how we deliver large-scale events. Having CDNs that are embedded, I'm going to call them, inside telcos, great value for the telcos as well. So it works both ways.
It works both ways, right?
It works both ways. And ultimately, we approach it as a publisher from a perspective of better quality, lower latency, right? And for the telco, it's more efficient backhaul usage,
lower cost,
lower cost, effectively. So on those, maybe 8 days or 10 days of the year, when it's all going to go crazy, and you're going to choke everything up, these decisions matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a complex thing.
Good place to offload, good place to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question, Akash? When you first heard about Broadpeak, did you think we could do it?
Honestly, I did. Right. I have a lot of respect for Broadpeak, and we've worked with you on and off, and I think at the specific juncture that you are talking about, we're very opinionated about how we build our stack. I always, sometimes people tell me, this is very easy, right? All you do is take a bunch of CDNs and, you don't do much. I always laugh, and I tell them I wish this was true. But specifically, we built a capability to counter, piracy, and that was something that we require our CDN partners to work with us on. It's not straightforward. So it's not that I didn't think you guys could do it. It was just very compressed. And thank you for coming to the party. I was pleasantly surprised, and it allowed us to use Broadpeak as part of one of the whole bouquet of CDN vendors versus perhaps using it only under special circumstances. Right? And again, there's a whole playbook that we devised for these things. But very happy to have collaborated and continue and deepen the relationship.
Absolutely, it's been a great collaboration. Absolutely, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the war room, or what I call it sometimes, the race control. I'm a big Formula One fan. I think you are as well.
I am too, yeah.
Akash, so what happens during the race? When it comes to the action, what do you look at in terms of dashboards, and what are the sort of buttons you can play? You win the spike, things are happening. Yeah. You see something maybe going wrong. What are you looking for, and how can you detect those things?
It's evolved so much. If I go back to 2018, which was the first time the war room and any of these Formula One inspired protocols were put in place. So we over the years we've sort of perfected this playbook, operational playbook really, right? You can do all the testing, you can build all the software you want, you can architect all the CDNs, but on the day off, you have no idea what's going to happen. Yeah. And that's primarily, that's the nature of life, right? There have been incidences where, someone has, cut a internet cable.
Fiber or something.
Or fiber to a part of the country, and you can't plan for that, right? Like, oh wow, that's a double or triple redundant failure. Like, how do you have a triple redundant failure?
Yeah.
Like, well, you got to deal with it. So, things happen, and it's a live event, and you got to constantly be ready for it. So the protocol itself is very Formula One inspired. We have marshals.
Race marshals, I think.
Race marshals, like we do for, like Formula One does or racing does. And, back in 2018, yes, I had multiple dashboards. I had this, you can go back to the pit wall, and we had we had a nerve center or control room, very similar to the side of a pit wall, where, myself, whoever was the marshal with, the key people on the team were looking at all the key telemetry of our little race car that was running on multiple million racetracks. But over the years, I think I'd say maybe over the last 5-6 years, we've gotten to a point where we are completely hands-off.
Okay.
And the reason is that it is such a multi-variable problem, right? 2018, one CDN. Now, 2026, I have 6 CDNs, right? Looking at QoS for all of them, and this is just delivery. We are talking about multiple microservices, that all collaborating with each other, working with different vendors, simultaneously running a high-scale subscription platform, a high-scale ads platform, and then finally, getting down to entitlement, and then I get to the streaming bits, right? In addition to all of that, we run a massive amount of engagement capabilities on our live streams, gaming, polls, we have VR streams that people are engaging with. So it's such a multivariable problem, and I think I have not seen this quantum of engagement on sports viewership globally anywhere. And there is some interesting things we've seen with the NFL and so on. NBA is doing a bunch of interesting. So definitely there are pockets, but just putting it all together at this scale, we are the only people who have these problems. Yeah. So it's not one thing, and kind of rounding it off, we've moved to a more machine-led, tell me when it's smoking, and then bring a human in. Right. So our protocols have mutated now to very much automatic detection, and then we dive in, and then there are fire drills. We do a lot of fire drills.
Then you know what to do.
And then we get in and then mitigate the issues.
So you work with early signals, maybe something that starts to go wrong, and this is an indication of something else going wrong. Okay.
We actually rate ourselves on how many times customers told us something is broken versus our systems told us that something was bad. And I'd say we're at least about 50-60% of the times machines will tell us. We're not all the way there, of course, it's a hard problem. and the velocity of issues is, when you're doing something at that scale, so it's interesting. But I mean, it's almost impossible otherwise in terms of a human
There's too much
scale.
data, right? Simply.
Yeah, we have 280 days of cricket in a year. So, running a
Times
pit wall.
tens of millions of streams. Yeah,
Millions of streams, and then, running a human pit wall for 280 days, not possible. Makes no sense.
Nice.
It's not a good use of our, time.
Resources. That makes sense. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, bigger fun fan here too, and you talk a lot of sense here. Very good. I wanted to go back to piracy. It's interesting you mentioned that. We see piracy coming back into this world, right? I think subscription being fragmenting rights. So if you want to watch one sport, sometimes you need multiple subscription. Prices also going up. So we see a lot of people choosing piracy rather than legal services. Where do you think, in terms of your services, where's the biggest sort of leakage of revenue? Is it people restreaming? Is it CDN leeching, sharing credential? What are the sort of pain points for you guys?
Again, all of the above.
Of the above,
yeah. I think so. We have a very valuable sports property. It's very loved, obviously, by our sports fans. Mm-hmm. And piracy has always been a constant. Over the years, we've had to come up with our own, solutions to combat piracy. Mm-hmm. I won't get into a lot of these solutions, but we've gone from a time when, and we've had a journey. If the platform's been an AWOD platform, and then has mutated into subs and an AWOD platform. Mm-hmm. So we do ads and subs, and through that whole journey, we've had to, from a technical perspective or technology perspective, we've had to, be nimble. It was a bit like a boxing match, Fighting pirates is kind of like a boxing match. But what's been interesting over time has been, again, and because you have a lot of scale, right? I think one stat I can share you is, most times, when we run live events, I won't tell you when, but there was this one particular event when we were probably rejecting almost 40-50% of the traffic.
Right.
It was all malicious. So, that's going to eat into my ad revenue.
Of course.
Because it's taking viewership away.
Yeah.
And it obviously will take the top of the funnel away from subscriptions. So, over the years, we built our own risk and fraud detection engines. Mm-hmm. That, flag these anomalies, and then we are able to kind of get in and do things. We have an amazing enforcement group that we have in-house, which again, I don't see a lot of, publishers do, but we've invested in that. And, they do an incredible, it's a legal, we try to find legal precedent to mm-hmm. go do these enforcements. Mm-hmm. And from a technology perspective, we provide them the cover to go, build that with the legal system in this country. Okay. But yeah, it's been a journey. I think and pirates constantly innovate to kind of steal.
It's cat and mouse a little bit.
It's very
right?
cat and mouse. Yeah.
What is interesting, and I think there's a bit of a theme here, is that you guys run into problems quite early on compared to other streamers, and you had to develop some of the solutions maybe quite early, because the rest of the world is very much waking up to anti-piracy. We see loads of interest for anti-piracy. Yeah. What you mentioned, getting the right information, being able to stop restreaming, being able to work with law enforcement and the right laws around it. So it is interesting. Can you maybe tell us a little bit around the sort of anti-piracy? What are the guiding principles? Is there something you do around, I don't know, identity or tokens at a high level, but to get a flavor of what you guys get into?
There is no piracy protection without identity. Mm-hmm. That forms a big, obviously that is the foundational principle of it all. Now beyond that, it's starting to layer in terms of saying that how are you now thinking in terms of entitlement? How often do you check entitlements? Yeah. You were making a point that a lot of streamers are now thinking about piracy, and my view is that it comes when just getting live streaming right is hard. Mm-hmm. Then once you got that, then you're like, well, how sports rights are expensive, then the monetization kicks in.
How do you make money with it?
How do you make money with it? And the moment you ask that question, then you got to ask the question of leakage, which is the piracy aspect of it. And we are just on an aggressive time scale with all of this, so it's been a necessity. But yes, I think having a strong identity, then layering it on with what entitlements and capabilities we are vending, and then being able to create gates and enough checks and balances in our product suite, and is one of the big reasons why it helps to own the product chain end to end, from app player to completely cloud native workflow, to stream and to monetize with the playouts and everything. So it allows us to take a more broad spectrum view. And going back to the reason we needed Broadpeak to work with us to create this some of these signals, if you will, as part of our monetization strategy. So it helps, because again, given our size, and then we have really good partners who want to help collaborate with us. So while these things are not standardized across multiple vendors, we also think in some way that we work with really good partners who collaborate with us, and those could be standards in the future.
They can become standards, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting because from what I understand, you guys have pretty much rebuilt what was Hotstar 1.0 to a 2.0, where pretty much everything is on through your own tech stack, your own software, and that gives you that ability to control every element of the chain.
Correct.
That has been under your leadership, I believe. Akash.
That's right. That's right. And again, it's been a necessity. Starting in 2017, when 2016 till 2017, we had a vendor-driven product, and 2018 IPL was when we recognized pretty quickly that we couldn't scale. And again, this is something born out of adversity. Right? 2017, we saw that the concurrency was steadily rising, and I'm talking about 3 million, 2.5 million concurrent back then, and it was an upward trajectory, and it became pretty clear that a vendor is not going to scale at the pace we want. I mean, fundamentally, you're misaligned in your incentives. I'm seeking a bespoke solution, whereas a vendor is going to sell something more generalized. So that became apparent pretty early on, and over time, while of course now we can look back and we're incredibly proud of what we've done. We've rebuilt the product almost 3 times over.
From the ground up, right?
Because we've had to keep pace with how the monetization and the business movement happened. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say at each juncture I always do look to buy. And when I know that I can't because I don't have a vendor that can do something, then I build.
I'm going to go build it myself.
Right? And I've always had this principle of what is core to the business. Who am I? I'm here to stream video. Now, should I go and build a gaming engine? I could, but do I want to? So there's been, those sort of conversations, and of course now I'm talking about 2016, 2017, and 2026. Again, the vision we have and the kind of reach we do. There are so many other endeavors that we are sort of building on platform now. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's colorful. There are many aspects, I think, in this market. Very good. One aspect that you mentioned as well is monetization, right? And monetization at this scale becomes also an interesting problem, right? Yes. So SSAI is here. You've been using it for a while. Yes. Are you looking into evolutions of SSAI? What's sort of your view today on technology?
I mean, the whole SSAI story is pretty amazing as well, right? Traditional live sports has always sold spots, right? That's a linear TV construct. So everybody sees the same ad, and there is some statistics that goes behind saying how many people saw it. That's the reach. With digital, starting with trackable spots, still everyone's seeing the same ad. And then, and again, this was built over time to recognize that you're going to sell out all your inventory because there's only so many opportunities. Cricket is, I remember one leader saying cricket is designed for advertising. Right? The ebb and flow of the game is such that it's in a soccer match, it's hard to just inject an ad at some point. As compared, just contrasting with cricket. So over time, there's going to be only so many opportunities. You'd hope your sales team does really well and sells all those spots out.
Everything, of course.
And then you're like, well, I have more money sitting on the table, and that's how SSAI came about. And when we went out looking for SSAI vendors, we recognized, these things didn't work beyond, back then I think even 1 million was, nobody was doing it.
At the time, yeah.
So, we said, okay, well, we got to build it ourselves.
Guess what, we're going to build it, yeah.
And I'm so glad we did, because the wave of monetization that it unleashed is something has been super incredible. I mean, we've had our SSAI solution, I want to say 2019 onwards, and we've sort of shaped that into an incredible product now. And it's just doing SSAI at that scale is also adds such a variable to the streaming aspects, right? And for a while it was just hard to find even the right CDN partners to be able to distribute that. So that's been a journey. What we find now again is that while SSAI is still a more cohort-based solution, since you're now offering that level of targeting, you want to always go more granular. And how do you go more granular at our scale? So we are actually turning on our SGAI solution, the server-guided ad insertion in this sports season. So I'm very proud of that, and I think we are looking at scales of almost 15 odd million and upwards. In that range to be able to do that. So
that's going to be another first, right?
That will be another first globally for sure. I am not again. We have the audience and we have to deal with monetizing.
You have to deal with it,
So that's something that I'm super proud of.
So this season, 2026, we'll have SGAI in production at scale. Well done. That's impressive. Very good. Very good. So you rebuilt the stack a few times. If you were to rebuild it, or if you were to rebuild one part one more time, what would you change today?
That's a loaded question.
Those are the best.
If I had a magic wand, I wouldn't rebuild anything. I just keep going. But the one space that's been disrupted now is just the presentation layer, the apps themselves, and I think being able to quickly manifest experiments really. We're a direct to consumer brand, and for a DTC product, experimenting rapidly is super key. So those parts will see a change in my view.
Continue to evolve,
right? And it's just how given the even from a streaming perspective, I won't say rebuild, but there are parts of the stack that are pushing us to rethink how we want to do this, right? Largely given the growth in CTV, it's not tenable to keep deploying capex all the time. That's used maybe 5 times a year. The ROI on that, I mean, if I was running a CDN, I'd think of those things. So for us also, how do you improve the cost structures? Those are the kind of problem statements that we obsess about. And it's interesting. I think with the whole abilities that AI is showing pretty much on a weekly basis, if not faster.
Daily,
how that plays out in advertising is very, very curious space. And what makes me very what keeps us super interesting is, again, I think we've been able to Lego block our way here, and the SGAI capability kind of lends itself beautifully to kind of doing a bunch of stuff on the edge. All the edge capability, edge compute capability that's coming up now. That is very fascinating. Being able to move inferencing closer to the customer. It's sort of the same, if I stop and think of it, a lot of the, one of our key tenet for me is to not handle things at origin. And, over time, if I think about it, a lot of these use cases, they tend to follow, or they seem to be following this sort of a pattern. And that's very good for us. I think, architecturally, we are well I find out that we are in a good position.
Yeah, distributed with intelligence close to the edge. Ability maybe to do contextual analysis, what's happening in the stream, is it the right time to put an ad, should
Very
I put
much
an
so.
ad? Because I know you're a fan of this team, maybe I give you the jersey ad at this time, I think those are fascinating use cases.
Correct. I think those are certainly use cases that in a VOD type scenario are certainly very accessible now. The manifestation of it and how advertisers will embrace that remains to be seen, and you can start seeing some adoption. For live, I don't think we are there yet. That's a bit of a jump, but and again, I think one will fuel the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Very good. So we'll probably wrap it up with this last two questions. We started talking about the future a little bit. So I'll ask you, what do you think will matter in 2 years? Is it going to be lower latency, higher reliability? You hinted at more efficiency, so maybe better monetization, anti-piracy. What are the sort of main topics for the next 2 years for you guys?
Yeah, that's a good one. Future gazing. We're going to look at this 6 months from now and say this did not age well.
It's usually the case.
Yeah, it's really the case. But look, I believe that providing better quality to our customers at better cost structures for the business is something that is I would definitely look for in the next 2 years. Improving monetization, absolutely, is super critical.
More yield, more revenues.
Yeah, in a world where increasingly linear is being replaced by digital, we need to think, and I think it's for the industry. It's this would be my hope that monetizing at scale, being able to leverage the targeting and also provide a contextually superior experience to the customer. Moving beyond formats that have been around for the longest time. We still do pre-rolls, mid-rolls.
Yeah.
You can go back to television and you're still doing the same formats. So I expect to see an evolution there, and we'll see.
There's some interesting things happening. Shoppable ads being one of them. There's
yes.
Good.
We wanted to buy all the time. So
yeah, that's good. Very good. One last question about the future. We talk about media over QUIC, right? This is a big talk in the industry. Everybody's getting excited about it. Are you excited about it?
Not so much.
Okay.
Primarily, I'll tell you the story, right? I think when I started my journey in 2017, everyone was on and on about HEVC and AV1.
Oh yeah.
Right? And they were like, oh, AV1's going to be everywhere, and the encoders have caught up, the players are coming. I'm still trying to go live with AV1. 2026. It's not for lack of trying. It just, I think it's like any technology. Again, I'm going to date myself and say, this is like, pushing desktop software back in the day.
Takes time, right? Yeah.
Everyone's on a different version. The hardware is variant. People will buy a knockoff hardware that doesn't communicate its capabilities well. All those problems are in your phone.
Yeah.
And getting the right codecs. Even if you get the codecs, you recognize their power consumption is no good, right? So I also have to be very mindful that I have such a large country to service. So HLS still works because HLS works everywhere. Yeah. And it gives you the largest spread, right? And we've been fortunate; we've been able to push HEVC in a big way finally. Right? So at least for India, those are the challenges we face. Yeah. Right? And we are sort of, while I started the conversation by saying we have these big technology jumps, because we've had those jumps now, there's also this, maybe 15 years of technology proliferation, which we now
carry with you now.
Which we are now carrying with us.
Yeah.
So, I think we would, low latency for me, I think low latency is a big deal, I know, in other parts of the world. I feel it's a lot of perception from that perspective. I don't think sports fans are sitting there and saying, oh my God, this is 15 seconds latent. Sports fans are watching sports. Yeah. I can't remember anyone sitting there and without stopwatch saying, oh, cable TV is
behind,
faster,
yeah.
satellite. So my personal view is that it's overhyped and probably doesn't deserve the kind of attention. There are use cases where LLHLS and that kind of low latency protocol works.
They help, yeah.
For again, for a scale streaming country like ours, or for the kind of audience we have, you will recognize pretty soon that the kind of compute that takes. I mean, you think about chunk sizes. Try to go to 2-second chunk sizes and then see what happens to your CDN infrastructure.
Yeah.
So these are the trade-offs that we make. It's easy for me to do 50 FPS, 2-second chunks, and say that hey, I'm super low latency, and service maybe 30 million customers less.
Isn't consumable.
That's the impact, and that's got a monetization impact. It's got reach impact. So again, these are perhaps more technical things and may not be very accessible, but here we deal with a lot of these issues. And I think as more people come online, more people go digital, just like your piracy observation, they will find that these are the problems they're going to chase, right? Having more reach is better than streaming at 50 FPS 4K. Yes, again, no knock against that, and certainly we curate, we look to curate extra premium. We do have premium customers that may pay for it, but again, I think that there's got to be some business thinking around that. I don't think this is the one size fits all game anymore. That will be a mutation that happens for sure.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, very good. Akash, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the time. What an insightful conversation.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Xavier.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you.